These titles might not have AAA budgets, but they have AAA guts, somewhere between indie charm and blockbuster scale. One of the greatest things about indie games is how often they're unafraid to push the boundaries of what we expect in a game's mechanics or explore stories that usually go untold. 2023's Cocoon doesn't have a groundbreaking story, but it most certainly possesses some mind-bending mechanics. The central focus of the game revolves around the concept of recursive worlds. Your little character uses orbs to solve puzzles, and each orb not only contains a whole world within it, it also allows you to utilize various abilities. One orb can make platforms out of green fog, another shoots out little lasers. So as you navigate through the alien minimalist setting of Cocoon, you have to juggle the different abilities of each orb in your head, as well as unlock new areas within them to progress. It sounds complicated, but that's the wonder of Cocoon. It takes this wildly complex notion and helps make it intuitive. Next up, we've got Superhot. On the surface, it looks like a stripped-down FPS where everything's white walls and red glassy enemies. But the trick is that time only moves when you do. That flips the whole shooter formula on its head. Suddenly every step, every throw, every trigger pull is this deliberate little puzzle. Yeah, there's a story about hackers, weird executable files, and some creepy collective consciousness thing lurking in the background, but honestly, I barely noticed it while I was playing. I was way too locked in the flow, clearing a room by punching a guy in slow motion, catching his gun mid-air, then turning another dude into shards with one perfect shot. Felt less like a shooter and more like a choreographed scene in an action movie, where you get to be the director and the star. It's short, it's sharp, and it leaves an impression. Few games manage to feel both meditative and adrenaline-fueled at the same time, but Superhot nails it. It's one of those experiences you finish in a couple of hours and immediately think, damn, that was something special. Tunic takes the idea of a hidden narrative to a whole new level, with even the rules of its mechanics tucked away behind exploration. Both the plot and the gameplay are revealed through manual pages that you slowly piece together using drawings, inference, and logic, since they're written in an unintelligible language, creating a sense of adventure on an extraordinary scale. As you progress, you're constantly uncovering more about your surroundings, figuring out how your tools actually work, and piecing together why you're facing the challenges in front of you. If that deeper loop doesn't grab you though, and you'd rather just enjoy its blend of Zelda-style exploration and Souls-like combat, the game lets you do that too. Nothing is forced, and the freedom to engage at your own pace makes it special, even once you've uncovered the whole picture. Tunic keeps its story simple and digestible. The result is an excellent, spontaneous adventure that knows exactly when to bow out, a perfect length for the journey it wants to take you on. Dead Cells is one of the best procedural video games, one of the best Metroidvanias, one of the best indie games, and honestly one of the best at everything it does. It's an indie gem through and through, although more and more content has been added over time, including elements that flesh out the adventure and give personality to its key figures. All of it sits in a subtle layer that never tries to steal the spotlight. The most avid players like yours truly will happily spend hours scouring every last room for those hidden scraps. But there's never any real obligation to do so. The focus is always on the gameplay. Sprawling levels, an absurd variety of weapons, powers, and builds, and bosses that demand your full attention. The loop is so good that even hundreds of hours can feel like scratching the surface. Motion Twins Games stands as one of the greatest indie titles ever made and a true benchmark for the industry. The kind of achievement that deserves every ounce of praise it gets. Some games feel like they exist outside time, and Kentucky Route Zero is exactly that. It's an episodic adventure about a secret highway running through the caves beneath Kentucky. A magical realist journey that blends the ordinary with the surreal. Technically it started in 2013, but Cardboard Computer released additional acts and interludes almost every year, each one deepening the story in unexpected ways. Act 1 lures you in with its quiet, Lycian mood. The VR interlude, the entertainment, experiments with space and perspective, and Act 3's Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces mixes absurdist bureaucracy with dark humor. It's a game about roads, ghosts, debts, and small-town America, but also about how stories themselves can flow and change over time. Kentucky Route Zero feels like a guide through this decade of gaming, showing how experiences can evolve from rigid products into living, malleable works of art. And its strange, hopeful world helps make sense of our own messy, unpredictable reality.
Weirdness is creeping back into our lands.
Developed by Awaken Realms Digital, Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon is a dark fantasy RPG based on the board game Tainted Grail, slowly carving out its own space in the grim first-person RPG genre, somewhere between Skyrim, Kingdom Come, and A Really Bad Dream. Set in a cursed version of Arthurian Britain, the game features a handcrafted open world, non-linear quest lines, faction dynamics, survival elements, and fully voiced NPCs.
The discomfort will be worth the outcome.
Combat is stamina-based and grounded. No floaty animations or cinematic fluff. Think heavy swords, slower pacing, and real punishment if you get cocky. No shiny chosen one energy here. Just darkness, rot, and the faint sound of something breathing behind a door that should have stayed locked. But now, we've got an RPG from Obsidian Entertainment, and one that doesn't waste time pretending you're a hero. In Tyranny, you work for the bad guys. The war you would normally expect to be fighting is already over. The resistance is crushed, and you're there to make sure everybody falls in line. The writing's razor sharp, choices are tough, and the world feels tense in ways that remind me of games like Icewind Dale and Fallout. Gameplay sticks very close to Pillars of Eternity, Obsidian's other RPG, but Tyranny places more importance on interactivity and choice, even going as far as to allow players to shape the campaign's story. Fights don't drag, abilities hit hard, and spellcraft's deep. You're literally building spells from scratch, tweaking range, effects, and keywords like some sort of mad arcane scientist. It's honestly nerdy in the best way. You feel it with this one. The dread, the power, the controls slipping through your fingers. Plus, the game's whole look and atmosphere are pretty memorable. Tyranny is cold, clever, and mean in all the right ways. But speaking of deep, choice-driven experiences, let's move on to one of the most content-packed titles on this list, Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous. This is the even better sequel to the already fantastic Kingmaker, a turn-based isometric RPG with one of the most in-depth character creation systems in gaming. It provides systems in the dozens, presenting players with a wide array of classes that cover almost every conceivable gameplay style. This one has a bit of everything, and the Mythic Path is also an exciting addition to the late game, and opens up a whole new slew of choices and trajectories. Wrath of the Righteous is a great modern inclusion to the genre, one that harbors back to the classics, while also refining its own formula. You can sink hundreds of hours into this one too, and if you have, let us know in the comments down below.
To survive, so choose
Dynasty Warriors Origins takes the classic chaos and cranks it up with better enemy AI, sharper graphics, and some genuinely fun new mechanics. It's built around the idea of one lone hero commanding the battlefield. You're not just button mashing through identical mobs. Now you're stringing together air combos, triggering massive battlefield-wide effects, and pulling off cinematic finishers that honestly look too cool for something this ridiculous. But there's also real strategy here. Base capturing matters, troop morale shifts the battle, and unit management gives it that subtle RTS-light feel. You can actually turn the tide if you know what you're doing, or at least look awesome while trying. It's still over the top, still full of iconic warlords with swords bigger than their bodies. But Origins brings you back to that sense of scale and drama that the series had kinda lost. If you want something loud, fast, and deeply cathartic, this is your therapy. Dave the Diver. On the surface, it looks like one of those cute indie fishing games you'd play for a couple of hours and forget about. But nah, this thing will eat your evenings alive. It's half underwater spearfishing adventure, half sushi restaurant management sim, and somehow those two pieces fit together like you just discovered peanut butter and jelly for the first time. The loop is genius. You dive during the day, harpoon some wild sea creatures, yes, including sharks that want to chew your face off. Then at night you're plating up that same catch and serving it to hungry customers. 1 second you're dodging giant squid, the next you're arguing with Karen because her wasabi isn't fresh enough. It's chaos, but the good kind. What really sells it is the vibe. The pixel art is gorgeous, the humor is goofy without being tryhard, and there's this cozy but addictive energy that keeps you saying, just one more dive. Spoiler, it's never just one. Now this is how you do a licensed game right. Aliens Dark Descent dropped under the radar. But trust me, it's a sleeper hit that strategy nerds and sci-fi horror fans should absolutely dig into. It's real-time tactics meets pure panic. You control a squad of Marines against an overwhelming xenomorph infestation, and every decision feels like life or death. One wrong move, bam, someone's chest is bursting. And the longer you go, the more your squad breaks down, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Man, there's something I just love about isometric games. You can't beat the immersion you get from the over-the-top angle. I highly recommend this one. It's gritty, smart, and drenched in atmosphere. The kind of game where you really feel the weight of your actions.
You like that, huh?
Oh, yeah.
S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 was cooking for what feels like forever, and now that it's finally here, we've got a game that the fans of the original will love. This game is moody, brutal, and weirdly beautiful. You're dropped into the Chornobyl exclusion zone, a massive open world full of mutants, anomalies, and dudes who will absolutely shoot you for walking into the wrong shack. What sets it apart is how corrupted everything feels, and I'm not just talking about the enemies. The zone itself is the main character here. 1 minute it's calm and eerie, the next you're sprinting from a bloodsucker and getting zapped by an invisible electro-death vortex. It doesn't hold your hand either. You're scavenging, managing your gear, and constantly feeling one bullet away from total disaster. This game is definitely a good one for people who like survival horror and open world games, and definitely for fans of the Fallout and Metro series. Into the Breach takes the chaos of turn-based strategy and makes it feel clean. Every move matters, every mistake is your fault, and every battle is a perfect little puzzle waiting to be solved. It's XCOM without the randomness. No missed shots, no surprises, just pure tactical planning. I love the art style on this one. It reminds me of playing Advance Wars back in the day. With this one, you're commanding a team of mechs, trying to hold back giant monsters from wrecking civilization. The hook? You always know what the enemy is going to do next. Instead of reacting, you're anticipating, pushing, blocking, or baiting enemies into attacking the wrong thing. It's a game about control, not luck, and that makes every victory feel earned. The pixel art is clean, the music is great, and with different squads, pilot abilities, and randomized maps, you never know what you're going to get. It's one of the best strategy games ever made in my opinion. If you haven't played it yet, you need to fix that. When I first played Children of Morta, I expected a fun pixel art action RPG. What I didn't expect was a deeply emotional story about family, loss, and resilience. This game is like if Diablo had a heart, and also made you want to call your relatives just to tell them you appreciate them. Each member of the Bergson family has their own unique combat style, whether it's slashing through hordes of monsters with a sword or raining arrows from afar. The roguelike elements keep things fresh, but it's the narrative that really hits hard. The game constantly reminds you that while individual strength is important, it's the bonds we share that truly make us powerful. Plus, it plays like an absolute dream. Cult of the Lamb is the perfect mix of cute and creepy. You play as an adorable little lamb who starts a cult in the name of some dark, ancient god. It's part roguelike dungeon crawler, part town builder, and it all somehow works incredibly well. The combat is fast and fun, and building up your cult, complete with brainwashing rituals, sacrifices, and weird sermons, never stops being entertaining. It's like if Animal Crossing got possessed by an eldritch horror, and honestly, that's exactly the kind of twist the cozy sim genre needed. The game also got some great updates, making the cult management even deeper. So if you haven't played in a while, it's worth diving back in. Inside doesn't waste time explaining itself. It just throws you into a bleak, unsettling world and dares you to figure it out. It's from the creators of Limbo. If you thought that game was dark, Inside cranks up the weirdness and atmosphere to new heights. I remember playing this the first time on release, running through a dystopian nightmare, being chased by guards, avoiding mind control experiments, and encountering things that are way worse. There's no dialogue, no cutscenes, just a constantly evolving world that tells its story through the environment. Every little movement feels deliberate, and the way the boy stumbles to the terrifyingly lifelike animations of the creatures you encounter. Man, the thing I love about indie games is they never age, and Inside is not an exception. The puzzles are clever but never frustrating, blending seamlessly into the world. And then there's that ending. No spoilers, but it's one of the most unforgettable moments in gaming. Disturbing, surreal, and impossible to stop thinking about. This game is an absolute masterclass in detective storytelling. If you liked Return of the Obra Dinn, this one is a must-play. Instead of standard puzzle solving, The Case of the Golden Idol gives you scenes frozen in time and asks you to piece together what happened by filling in blanks with clues you find. It makes you feel like an actual detective, and the way each case builds into a larger, overarching mystery is designed extremely well. The art style is weird and unsettling in a way that totally fits the tone. By the time you hit the later cases, you feel like a conspiracy theorist connecting red strings on a corkboard. It's one of the most satisfying detective games ever made. This War of Mine takes on a compelling journey into the civilian experience during wartime. As you guide a group of survivors, you're faced with heart-wrenching decisions that have life and death consequences. This emotionally charged exploration of moral dilemmas and the cost of survival offers a gaming experience that's often overshadowed by more mainstream titles. In this War of Mine, you'll gain a profound perspective on the human condition in times of conflict, making it a hidden gem that deserves your attention and empathy.
The right people with the right tools. OCP's technology is such a tool.
Alright, let's be real. Licensed games usually suck. For RoboCop Rogue City, this one gets it. It doesn't just slap RoboCop on a generic shooter, it actually makes you feel like RoboCop. You're a tank in human form, slow but relentless. Bullets, hardly a threat. Enemies, they're sent flying with a single punch. That Auto 9, it's a monster in your hands. But this isn't just about unloading lead. There's detective work, meaningful choices, and a surprisingly solid story that nails the vibes of the movies. For fans of classic action films or just anyone who loves a game where you feel powerful as hell, this one's a sleeper hit. It's the best RoboCop game ever made, and honestly, one of the best first-person shooters of recent years. Let's take the precision combat of Dark Souls. Mix it with tight, responsive gunplay and throw in some roguelike randomness. Boom, you got Remnant 2. The game is a huge step from the original, with bigger worlds, crazier bosses, and way more replayability. That's what I love about this one. There's a ton of variety in your playthroughs. Even main story beats can shift between runs, so you and a friend playing might have completely different experiences. There's a ton of dungeons, NPCs, and random secrets to find, making it quite exciting not knowing what's around the corner. Now add in 3-player co-op, a deep class system, and some of the most intense boss fights in any shooter. You got a game that probably deserves a little more attention than it gets. It throws you into the action right away and doesn't let up, making it perfect if you want something that keeps things moving. Check it out.
Gear up to tackle any obstacle in the way.
Imagine Devil May Cry meets Red Dead Redemption, but instead of gun duels, you're punching vampires. That's Evil West, and it's absolute chaos. This is old school action at its best. Fast, over the top, and packed with ridiculously satisfying combat. You're chaining melee attacks, blasting creatures with an electric gauntlet, and juggling enemies midair like you're playing a fighting game. The story? Classic B-movie gold. Cowboys versus supernatural horror, with just enough silliness to keep it fun. It's not some deep open-world RPG. It's a straight-up power fantasy that knows exactly what it wants to be. If you miss the days when games were just pure fun without all the fluff, Evil West delivers it in spades. If Ghost Runner 1 was all about precision and speed, the sequel doubles down on it. Bigger levels, more movement options, and the same one-hit kill intensity that makes every fight feel like a high-stakes puzzle. My favorite part about Ghost Runner 2 has to be the smooth gameplay. Wall running, grappling, deflecting bullets, it all flows together perfectly, making you feel like a cybernetic ninja who never stops moving. And now, you even get a motorcycle, letting you blaze through neon-lit highways in style. It's fast, brutal, and rewarding as hell. If you love games that test your reflexes and give you adrenaline rushes when you pull off the perfect run, this one is essential. Undertale is the reason Toby Fox is a household name in the video game business, as is Fox's wonderful score. Subversive writing and wicked sense of humor catapulted Undertale to the unofficial Indie Hall of Fame. Officially, Undertale has won 3 high-profile gaming awards, and been nominated for a laundry list of others. It's never been hailed as a beautiful game, but Undertale is written and designed to surprise the most seasoned gamers, with fourth-wall breaking jokes and commentary, beautiful music, and engaging combat. It would be a disservice to reveal anything more about Undertale, as it's one game that's best to experience blind. So I'll leave you to download and play it for yourself. Like now, go! Gris is a masterclass in understated storytelling and evocative art direction. With a sturdy foundation of inventive platforming and clever puzzle solving as a bonus, this is the indie game to play if you're looking for something to remind you how beautiful video games can be. It's the atmospheric music and very personal nature of Gris that makes this work of art worth exploring for indie fans in search of a quieter, more reflective experience. Valheim is a Nordic delight where you and up to 10 bearded buddies attempt to break out a procedurally generated purgatory. To do so, you'll need to gather up resources, build yourself some nice gear, and beat a handful of big baddies scattered across the land. Purgatory is actually quite nice early on, at least. You're dropped into a beautiful forest biome, filled with boar and little goblin dudes, before you'll need to venture out into dark woods and plains teeming with massive ogres and horrid, overgrown mosquitoes. Astray is one of those games that almost feels like a hidden secret, an overlooked sci-fi platformer with a ton of heart, eerie atmosphere, and some of the best puzzle mechanics I've played in an indie game. And on the Switch, it feels like it truly found its home. The game puts you in control of Mo, a small, gelatinous creature that can jump, cling to walls, and take over the minds of enemies. At first, it seems like a simple platformer, but as you progress, the game reveals layers of storytelling, environmental puzzles, and action sequences that feel incredibly rewarding. And the game's storytelling, completely unique, rather than spoon-feeding you a plot. Astray lets you uncover what happened through environmental details, flashbacks, and the memories of the creatures you possess. It's a method that rewards players for paying attention, making the world feel lived in and mysterious. If you're looking for something unique, something that blends platforming, puzzles, and storytelling in a way that few games do, Astray is a perfect pickup on Switch. It's an underrated indie that deserves way more attention. Tides of Numenera, it's a spiritual successor to Planescape, Torment, and it lives up to its legacy. The game's narrative is its strongest suit, weaving a tale of identity, mortality, and consequence. I was hooked from the opening moments, trying to piece together the mysteries of the changing god. The gameplay might not be for everyone, but if you love deep, thought-provoking stories, this game is a treasure. It's a reminder of what RPGs can achieve when they prioritize narrative and player choice.
You're not dead, Matkina. Come on, get up.
Underrail is the kind of game that throws you into a collapsing underground metro system full of mutants, cults, toxic politics, and says, figure it out. No training wheels, just you, a rusty pistol, and a lot of bad decisions waiting to happen. The turn-based combat in this one is quite unforgiving. Builds matter a lot. If you try to play it like a casual RPG, it'll chew you up. But if you take the time to understand its systems, stealth, psi powers, traps, energy weapons, it opens up in a way that's honestly brilliant. Slow burn, but worth it. One thing I like is the writing's cold utilitarian style, scavenging scraps, picking sides, or not. If you like the old Fallouts but wanted something even harsher and more mechanical, Underrail scratches that itch like it's got nails. Just don't go in blind. This one makes you earn it.
The chambers of Tartarus have probably all rearranged themselves by now.
In Hades, failure isn't just an option, it's the point. Every time you fall, you're rewarded with a little more story, a little more context, and maybe even a wink from Dusa. It's a game that makes death feel meaningful, which is fitting for something set in the underworld. The game is a roguelike, but it's not just about the runs. It's about the story you uncover each time you fail and try again. Each death brings you back to the House of Hades, where you will chat with gods, bond with your frenemies, and pet Cerberus, the best three-headed boy in all of mythology. Combat is lightning fast and endlessly customizable, with a mix of weapons and blessings from Olympian gods like Zeus, Athena, and Dionysus. The boons are like party favors from your relatives, except they make you ridiculously powerful. Want a build where your shield ricochets like Captain America on caffeine? Done. Prefer to turn your foes into walking poison bombs? Easy. The combat is flawless. The real magic is in relationships you build as you crawl your way out of hell, one attempt at a time. Alright, it's Cuphead. The art style is great, the jazz soundtrack slaps, and the bosses, pure genius. This game is unique, and let's be honest, no other game is going to make you feel like you stepped into a 1930s cartoon like Cuphead does. I'm not gonna lie, I've died more times than I care to admit, and I didn't actually get to finish the game. I don't know, I find this one to be a bit clunky compared to what I'm used to, but that's because it's more of a traditional platform shooter. And there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, difficulty might make you want to cry at times, but the sense of accomplishment when you finally get through is unmatched. That's the point, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Speaking of games that make you suffer, Celeste somehow does it while being emotionally profound. From the devs at Maddie Makes Games, this one takes elements from the Super Meat Boy playbook, but adds so much depth. It's about facing yourself, which sounds all philosophical until you realize that means dying roughly 1,000 times per level. What makes Celeste special is how it feels. Movement is intuitive, and every new mechanic is introduced so smoothly that it never feels unfair, and the story is surprisingly deep. Health, self-doubt, perseverance, it's all wrapped up in this beautiful pixel art adventure with a soundtrack that somehow is calming and stressful at the same time. If you love challenging platformers with actual heart, this one's definitely one to keep your eye on.
And GDF now knows of the might we possess.
There's something kind of comforting about going back to a classic RTS structure. Base building, resource gathering, chunky units marching across the map. It scratches a very specific itch. Tempest Rising gets that. It doesn't feel like it's trying to reinvent anything. It's like one of those games you'd find on a random disc in a PC Gamer magazine back in the day, except it actually rules. You're clicking around, setting up your power grid, rushing for Tiberium-like crystals, all while managing that low-level panic that the AI might send a wave of tanks at any second. That's the good stuff. Explosions, synth-heavy music, units yelling nonsense. Feels like it was made by people who grew up loving the same kind of games we did. You're the kind of person who kept Command & Conquer installed for years. This one's speaking your language. Few indie games have seen success like Subnautica, while developer Unknown Worlds is now working on a third entry that may no longer be considered indie. The original certainly was. Released in early access in 2014, it slowly built a devoted community. Subnautica is survival at its purest. You're dropped on a mostly oceanic alien planet, tasked with uncovering the fate of your crashed ship, curing a strange illness, and exploring the deep. Crafting, very light combat, and bizarre sea creatures fill the experience. But beware, some of this sea life is deadly, and encounters can be sudden. It's a game best understood by diving in yourself.
As they did.
People sleep on how weirdly compelling Terraria's story is. You don't get cutscenes or long monologues, but the game does have a narrative, buried in the world itself. You land in this empty land, build a shack, then dig down, and suddenly it's Lovecraft. The bosses all have lore, there's a cursed jungle temple, a floating space cult, and a whole underworld run by a demon lord. Everything escalates. First you're fighting slimes with sticks, and then you're summoning eldritch horrors with cursed dolls and rocket launchers. The real hook is how much you shape the story. The NPCs move in because of what you build. Wildly underrated. Yeah, you play as a cat, but Stray isn't just a ha-ha funny cat game, it's a surprisingly deep cyberpunk adventure that nails the feeling of being a four-legged little troublemaker. Exploring a neon-lit city as a stray means you're jumping across rooftops, squeezing into tiny spaces, and knocking stuff off shelves just because you can. But there's more to it. There's a real sense of mystery, and the way the game slowly unravels its world makes it way more emotional than you'd expect. Honestly, this is probably my favorite game on this list. So underrated. I mean, who knew playing as a cat could be so much fun? It's not an open world sandbox, and it doesn't try to be. Instead, it's a tight, focused experience that tells a story in a way only a game like this could. If you want something chill but immersive, Stray is absolutely worth your time. Next up, we've got one of the best indie titles of all time. Some games tell you what to do. Outer Wilds will just drop you into space, hands you a ship, and says good luck. There's no traditional progression, no upgrades, no skill trees, just knowledge. The only way to progress is to uncover the truth about the tiny solar system through exploration. Every 22 minutes the sun explodes and the loop resets, but you keep everything you've learned, and that's what makes it brilliant. You'll spend each loop exploring different planets, uncovering ancient mysteries, and slowly piecing together why the universe keeps resetting. Every answer leads to more questions. Every discovery feels like a personal victory. And it's not just about the puzzles. The game is packed with emotional moments, lonely planets, haunting ruins, even a few terrifying encounters. The deeper you go, the more Outer Wilds messes with your expectations. It's a game best played blind, so if you haven't tried it yet, don't look up anything, just dive in. It's easily one of the best sci-fi games ever. There's no other RPG like Disco Elysium. No combat, no fetch quests, just you, a washed-up detective, in a city full of people who all have something to say. It's a game where every decision matters, not because of loot or XP, but because of how it shapes your character in the story. Imagine waking up after a spectacularly bad night, trying to solve a murder while also figuring out what the hell you even did before blacking out. And here's the twist. Your own thoughts are characters. Your brain constantly argues with itself, with different aspects of your personality battling for control. The writing is sharp, hilarious, and sometimes brutally dark. And every conversation feels like it could go 100 different ways. I personally find this probably the best game to play after you've had a few drinks. Just something about the voice acting and the art style for me. Maybe I'm alone on that one, but hey, it's not for everyone either. It's slow, very text-heavy, and doesn't hold your hand. If you love RPGs that give you true freedom in role-playing, Disco Elysium is an absolute masterpiece. Let's start with Hollow Knight. This is the indie darling that perfectly integrated combat difficulty and exploration in a platform title. You play as a tiny bug warrior, exploring Hollow Nest, a kingdom filled with secrets, bosses, and lore so deep that even Dark Souls fans took notes. The hand-drawn art style is legendary, and the atmosphere is like no other game. It's quite dark and depressing, sure, but that's part of the whole story. Now, as for the combat, it's simple but perfectly crafted. It has that buttery smooth precision you'd expect with a top-tier platformer. With Silksong taking longer to come out than some people's college's degrees, now's the perfect time to experience this masterpiece. But hey, if you want something a little bit more fast-paced, our next title might be the one for you. Super Meat Boy is a hardcore punk concert where every wall is made of saw blades. This game is pure, distilled platforming perfection. And I've gotta say, out of all the games on this list, nothing feels quite as fluid and good to play as this one. Team Meat put together something that feels tight. Every jump, every air control, every last-ditch wall grab. It's all responsive in a way that makes you blame yourself, not the game, when you inevitably fail for the 500th time. It's tough, but that's the point. The instant respawn keeps you locked in, and the levels are short enough to make retrying addictive instead of soul-crushing. Plus, the soundtrack goes hard, and the cutscenes have a goofy charm that makes the suffering feel worth it. Also, there's nothing like seeing all of your failed attempts after you finally ace the difficult level. If you haven't played it yet, this, in my opinion, is one of the greatest platformers ever made. And even though it's 15 years old, it still holds up perfectly to today's indie titles. Don't Starve isn't just a survival game. It's a psychological test designed to make you question your life choices. You're dropped into a spooky, dark world with nothing but your wits and a few basic tools. Let me tell you, the world is out to get you. You'll be fighting off weird monsters, trying to keep your sanity intact. Spoiler, you won't. And foraging for food so you don't starve, which is, the point. The game's charm is its dark humor and quirky art style, but underneath the weirdness is a truly unforgiving survival experience. Your character is always on the edge of madness, and every little thing you do, chop a tree, light a fire, or even pick a flower, drains your sanity just a bit more. And let's not even talk about the nightmarish creatures that'll try to eat you. Who knew a game about not starving could make you feel this paranoid? But hey, at least you get to play as Wilson, a scientist who looks like one bad hair day away from losing it all. Don't Starve is the game that reminds you, survival is hard. You're probably gonna die, and you'll be totally okay with it because it's all hilariously messed up. What if the world was freezing over and you were the last hope of humanity? That's Frostpunk, and the sequel doubles down on the tough moral choices and grim survival mechanics that made the first one so intense. In Frostpunk 2, you're managing a society on the brink of collapse, and also dealing with the rise of industry, trying to decide whether you'll embrace progress or stick to traditional survival. Every decision is a moral struggle, and the stakes are as high as they can get. Love the city building here and the choice-driven gameplay. It makes the title truly unique. The game's actually quite difficult too, which might appeal to some of you, and that's what makes it so satisfying. If you love games that challenge your sense of ethics, survival, and leadership, Frostpunk 2 is gonna make you think long and hard about how you lead. Guys, thanks for watching, and let us know your favorite games in the comments down below. And keep watching GameWise. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.